What are some reasons to take Social Security early?
What are reasons to take Social Security early? Okay, so uh, you need it for one thing, right?
Yep.
So, I remember seeing a stat: the average 65-year-old has $49,000, and not including their home, but just in investment assets, savings, those types of things. And so, hey, you don't have a job anymore, maybe. You're 62, can't get another job, don't want to get another job. That might make some sense to take Social Security because you got to pay your bills, and you don't have enough money saved in the other areas. So that's a 58% of Americans take Social Security at age 62. That's got to be one of the reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when you're looking at just a vacuum, kind of with no other factors, what is the break even? Taking 62 versus 70. Usually, the break even's just in the 80s. So if your life expectancy, for some reason, you have a medical condition and you don't believe you're going to live to your 80s, that's a good time to take Social Security.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Most of the time, we plan for a longevity risk, and so we're always concerned with outliving your money rather than dying early. So that's how we think about it when we come to planning.
Yeah, it comes from experience. We have a client that dies early. It's usually not a financial situation, because they've saved money theoretically, and the less time that they needed the money in the end.
Hmm.
It's never a happy moment, but in terms of finances, dying early is easier from a financial planning standpoint, unfortunately. The real sad stories are, a conversation I had with this gentleman, and he took the last dollar out of his IRA, taking it monthly, and calls me up and thanks me and says, I lived a lot longer than I thought I would. So those are the ones that I remember. And, just going back to what my first client really was my grandmother, and my grandfather just passed away. She didn't have a job. She hadn't had a job for a really long time. She was only 65, and her comment to me constantly was, "Hey, just help me not run out of money." And that kind of really drove that home. So, oftentimes when I look at Social Security, that is one of the things I think about, is just making sure, But there are other reasons to take it early. So, if you don't think you're going to live very long, then you might want to. If you need it, obviously you take it. You also need to do an analysis. If you don't take it early and you are retired, you're going to be, drawing money from someplace.
Yeah.
And, what rates of return are you getting? How does that look? And so we run Monte Carlo simulation to say, okay, what happens if we take Social Security early versus late? And, how does that affect the assets overall? How does that affect the overall plan, in terms of the long-term aspects of it? And so that, that's very specific to, your financial
Yeah,
situation.
it's like when are you retiring? When are you pulling from your assets? Because if you take it at 62, you're giving about 30% of your benefits
Yeah.
compared to 67. So that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And if you take it 70 versus 67, you're getting 24% more.
24% more. So big chunk of money that, again, still might make sense to take it early. We don't have anything against that really at all. We just look at the numbers,
Yeah.
and we can test it in a vacuum. We can test it in a full-on financial plan with Monte Carlo simulation. We can get the right answer, at least, from a number standpoint. And then it's up to just kind of somebody's thoughts and feelings about it and what they want to do. But I do think it's really important to have the number, so that you've got some idea, what age is the optimal age to take Social Security to maximize that for you. That comes from planning, not from just some random piece. And a lot of times we talk about some generic things, and we do some case studies with, examples of plans. But your plan, it could be quite different. You have to be careful of those. If you're really interested, talk to us, and we'll put it in our plan and run it and see what the answer is. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a niche case that happens quite often is when you have a big difference in ages with spouses. So say your spouse is 10 years older, there could be a reason for you to take early then, just based on, the differences, and you'd have to do some sort of calculation with, how much Social Security are you getting versus spousal benefit, but you could figure out a time where taking it at 62 may be an option.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've seen those come up a couple times in some of our planning scenario where it's recommending that the younger spouse with enough age differential should take it early, and that optimizes the scenario. So again, we're kind of engineers in this regards, and just trying to optimize the cash flow as much as we can to make sure, again, to not run out of money. If you live a long time, that's a great thing. But it puts more pressure on your money.